I have a question for you. Can you Momigami crackle paste? Well, the answer is yes, you can Momigami crackle paste. And you can do that very, very carefully. That's how you can Momigami crackle paste. Hi, I'm Cassandra Donnelly from Creative Passages. I'm a mixed media artist in Norfolk, Virginia, and today I want to show you all about how I made these beautiful papers that involve distress oxide inks and crackle paste and Momigami. And these were a lot of fun, but not for the faint-hearted. I am going to be talking about trauma and the recovery process because this process very much mimics, trauma that happened as well as the healing process. So I do want to put a trigger warning on this video, but I promise it'll be more encouraging for you. Okay, so stick around. It was a very long, tedious process, which I sort of doubt anybody wants to replicate, but maybe something in this will inspire you to experiment and create your own papers. This, for me, was all about experimentation. And it kind of just evolved and it took off. It started out that I wanted to create some gel prints. So it involves jelly printing too. And in the past, last year sometime, I made some jelly prints on top of some oil pastel drawings. And I was just really pleased with how intricate and interesting the gel prints turned out. And I thought, this is really great collage fodder. And so my whole intention with this was to just make some pretty papers that I could collage with. But then it evolved. So now they're just pretty papers that I'm not sure I want to even collage. I mean, I could collage with them still, but they're so pretty that I want to mostly keep them intact and use them in my trauma journal. And this was also about me just allowing my emotions to just run freely and not censor myself. Just experiment, just be free, and just play and have some fun and see where it leads me. But it also involved tremendous risk because it was really complicated and tedious to Momigami the papers and the crackle paste, especially this one. This one's a collage. Okay, so my whole purpose then, knowing that I wanted to make collage papers initially on top of artwork, so I had to create some artwork. So I wasn't trying to create my most elaborate artwork, but I was trying to create artwork that I could then, add on to with jelly prints. So take a look at my art. So they're pretty simple drawings on craft paper mostly, and some just regular printer paper. I used Caran d'Ache crayons mostly, and then as you can see with the collage, it evolved from just a regular drawing to then collage that I then furthered with oil pastels to kind of blend things in. So I did, even though I knew I wanted to cover up most of it, I just kind of let myself go wild with just, in this process, I told myself, okay, get as crazy, as chaotic as you want to get, because I was going through a lot of stress and I just wanted to get out all my emotions, and I didn't want to hold back. So I wanted to actually to just allow myself to be busy. My artwork tends to be busy anyway, but I was like, just get as busy as you can and don't even worry about it. Some of it's going to be covered up, most of it. But I thought the busyness, some of it might lead to some intricate lines and things that hold your attention when you're looking at it, like the layers. I love the layers. So I went a little crazy, especially with this collage one. We can sort of see the drawing from this side. That's the back side. This is the front side. Okay, so I did all my drawings, and then I went to the gel plate. So take a look at that process. So with the gel printing, took those drawings, and I then wanted to cover them up partially, but not completely. The idea was to make some interesting layers. So I took acrylic paints, I used distress oxide inks and sprays to create some interesting textures. I used stencils. I experimented even with just some found objects to draw on and make marks. I used strings. I used papers that I ripped up or cut out to make mask, so that I can cover up part of the plate and then just get the jelly print on only portions of my papers, because of course I didn't want to cover up everything, because then what was the point of having the original drawing there? I just wanted to create some variations and some interesting layers. So that pretty much sums up the gel printing process. So you can see that as I go along here, what my goal is for that.
Alright, so I'm using some stencils, and I'm combining 3 stencils on the jelly plate, and so my goal is to do sort of a patchwork marks on my prints and get lots of different lines and lots of different textures and variations, etc. So now I'm using the red paint. It was a heavy-bodied paint, so I had to roll it out. And you see, I'm just pressing my paper down into different places of my jelly plate, through the stencil. And I'm just experimenting with, different colored paints, and I'm not too worried really about, messing up my picture. The way I see it, I've already got a scan of it, so even if it's a disaster, I'll keep working with it. That gold stuff was alcohol ink. I just love it. So now I'm putting on that white layer there, more stencils, and pressing it in. And notice I use, different papers and press into it, because I'm only trying to get bits and pieces of the, paint from the gel print. I don't want it everywhere. I only want it some of the places. So like I said, this process was very much about risk taking, and my whole purpose initially was just to create, some nice collage papers. But like I said, this pretty much evolved into its own very intricate process. So now I'm using the painter pens to mark on the gel plate, and this is kind of experimental. I maybe tried it once or twice before, but I haven't really done a lot with that. So, I'm just getting loose, wild, free. That's really what this process was about. It's just experiment, be bold, try new things, be wild, you know, be as expressive as you possibly can be. Just have fun. It's interesting, you see like loading all 3 papers on it at once. And so you can see this is building, and it is becoming more interesting. Now I want to do some mark making with the Caran dash crayons, and I'm using the number 1 Neo colors. because I don't want to build those layers and make it really interesting. Now, a lot of this you're not going to be able to see at the end, but it makes slight color variations, underneath um, the crackle paste that I'll put on. So all these layers, build up to make something that I think is fascinating. Like I said, you could probably get a similar result with less effort, but for me, it was all about the process. I mean, I just love doing this. I maybe should have got some scans before I added the crackle paste, but it's like just so much mark making and so much expression and just so much just boundless energy and creativity, that I'm putting into this. Um, when you like take all the rules off the table and you can just go wild, that's very freeing and fun. And it did turn out into a way I really like. So, I mean, already just looking at this, those papers look really interesting, just as they were. But I like them better even with the crackle paste and after being Momigami. But they do change completely. And this process is really about letting go of what was once before, and embracing, changes, embracing new things, etc. Because these are constantly in a state of change. That's one of my favorite stencils right there. So just putting a little bit on all of them. I don't know why I bothered, honestly, with the word stencils. You can't see any of it by the end of it. But like I said, for me, it's just a process. So if you wanted to recreate similar papers, I would say you could maybe just start on the gel print and add your crackle paste. But if you really want something interesting with all those variations of colors, I mean, this is a good technique. Or if you just want interesting collage papers, and you could even stop short of the crackle paste. This is fun, all by itself, I think. And the collage was definitely overboard, but like I said, I just had fun, and apparently I just had a lot of feelings to get out. And gold is one of my favorite colors, and now I'm doing some blue and some of the grayish black there, which is also one of my favorite colors. And I believe I put some gold sparkles on there too. The gel printing process was 2 hours by itself just to do all these. And I end up with one extra paper, which was my roll-off paper. So that's going to end up going through the same process, except that, it didn't have the beginning artwork on it. Now I'm using the white painter pen to put some marks on it. You can see I like almost covered that up completely. That's the scrap paper, or the roll-off, the last one. I like these like loose white lines. Now that some of these lines do show up at the end. They were pretty bold. I just like doodles and swirls. So I love the gold there. So now I'm just splattering some gold on it as well. That was a roll up. It's going so fast, it's hard to talk. So now I've got this little gel plate. So I'm going to add tiny little details. So you see I use that piece of paper sort of as a mask to keep other parts from getting the paint. And these are just more, paper mask. And I added a little string there too. I'm hoping to get some of the effects of the string on my papers as well. It's just plain having fun. So you see the paper stuck there a little bit, but I'm just kind of going with it. They're just going to be masked for a while. And I'll try to pull them off. It's looking kind of interesting. Trying to put more interesting stuff on there, different textures like material textures, etc. on there. And those masks did make some interesting effects. I just cut out pieces of paper and laid them on my chili plate. Alright, now I'm just taking a look at all the different papers I have so far. And some more blue to it. And just kind of only trying to get some of those patterns only on like certain areas, not all over. Because like I said, I don't want to completely cover up the layers underneath. And that's how I like to work, like the patchwork type style. Works for me. Now, jelly printing is fun all by itself. I mean, it's a fun way to just relieve some stress, I guess. And it's exciting when you can make interesting, intricate, layered papers. There's something about layers that I absolutely love. So these are masks, and I had the string down there too to create that texture. And I don't really experiment like with this kind of stuff too often, but I really was just in the mood to just go wild, like I said. Those white lines are still noticeable at the end of this. So that's sort of a yellowy gold color. Looks like I did the Crackle paste off camera, probably to save some time because it's such a long process. But I just took a palette knife and rubbed the Crackle paste through a stencil. This is the result right here. It's pretty easy to use a Crackle paste. It's already ready to go when you open up the jar. And so these don't have any color on them as far as the Crackle paste goes, so I want to add some color with the Distress Oxide inks and sprays. So that is what is going to happen next. That is my runoff paper, but it's going to turn into work of art too. So here I am just rubbing some ink onto my mat, spraying it with water, and then rubbing my papers down on top of it to absorb color into the Crackle paste. So my goal here is to add color to the white Crackle paste, and I don't know, I decided to do it this way. I'm not sure it's the best way, but I just took my Distress Oxide inks, put them down on my mat, sprayed with waters. Sometimes I just used my spray Distress Oxide inks and then added water and then dabbed it. But it was hard to get it exactly on the white and not on other places, which I didn't necessarily mind. But eventually I decided I need to target just the white Crackle paste a little bit more. So basically you can just see me, adding stuff this way. It seems like once I spray directly on it. So I'm just trying to dab it up very precisely. as precise as you can get with this method. And that red shows up really well. So after I get it on there, I also spray it with water to see if I can spread the color out or maybe get some interesting drips. And now I'm trying to put it directly on top of my paper because the other method didn't seem to be getting dark enough or fast enough.
And then after the jelly printing, okay, this is where my ideas really took off. I was like, what would happen if I used some Crackle paste? I knew all along that I did want to Momigami this. Well, I'm not sure when the Momigami idea came, but it came, I think it actually came in the middle of the process. I don't think I had that idea originally. Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't have that idea originally. I decided later on to Momigami it. So this idea kept building and building. So my next idea was to add the Crackle paste because I did want to. I knew all along though that I did want to include these papers in my trauma journal. So I was like, Crackle paste. It's all cracked. Maybe it can represent trauma. You know, when you've been traumatized, you feel like maybe, you know, part of you got damaged and worn, and just life became hard and difficult. So there will be a trigger warning on here. And so that was the idea, like with the Crackle paste, is just to express the just feeling worn and torn and battered in life, because, you know, there was so much trauma in my life. You could say complex trauma, starting in childhood, you know, with the sexual abuse, and then even more sexual abuse in young adulthood, and then just a bad marriage and poverty. You know, I was a single mother for a while before I got married, and then my marriage was very unstable, you know, and we suffered and almost became homeless, and sometimes I didn't have enough food to eat and I was hungry. So just a bunch of trauma. Anyway, so I wanted to capture all that, and so I let myself just kind of get loose with that. But at the same time, I didn't want, because your life doesn't end, you know, after something like that. You just work through it, and then you take what you have and you make something beautiful out of it. Maybe your story then could invite healing for other people. Maybe it can inspire other people. I think if you take something negative that happens in your life and you work through it, then it can become a positive. You build endurance, you build strength, you build character. You learn how to have faith. You learn how to press into God. You learn how to trust God when you have nothing, and you have to trust Him to survive. You have no choice, but then you see, as you call out to Him, He doesn't really take away your pain. He doesn't necessarily make you comfortable, but He does see you through. He's there for you, and he takes you through this process, and He provides comfort and encouragement, you know, every once in a while, and then your faith grows and you become stronger, and, you know, He pours out His love on you when you see that He's trustworthy. And so, I mean, that's just one way you grow. And so I wanted to create something beautiful out of the trauma, like beauty for ashes. That's what I wanted to create with these papers.
Alright, so back to the art narration. I'm adding watercolors. This happens to be a metallic watercolor set because I felt like I did not get enough color onto the Crackle paste with the Distress Oxide inks and sprays, and some of it was just Distress ink. So I thought, let's get more direct and let's just try to paint the Crackle paste, and I have been spraying it with fixative before I add the watercolor paints, obviously, since I didn't want the Distress anymore already. Alright, so these are my papers at this point. After the crackle paste has been colored and before being Momigami'd, I wanted you to see the difference. These papers are very beautiful, and I knew that it was a huge risk to Momigami it because they would look completely different, and there was a potential that they could be destroyed. But yet, I'm willing to take the risk because I really want to work through something here. Alright, to ensure my crackle paste doesn't flake off, I'm putting the cellulose glue on it to fold it just a little bit better. Some of it will flake off, but I don't want all of it to flake off. So I'm doing the cellulose glue in the hopes that it might make a difference. I'm not sure since I didn't test it the other way, but I'm also spraying it with fixative to keep the cellulose glue from making anything move or bleed. Cellulose glue has been applied, and now I want to add the konnyaku starch to both sides before Momigamiing it.
And so I thought the crackle paste, let's put it through a stencil of like beautiful flowers and interesting patterns. And so that was my whole idea. But yet, I knew that when I Momigami'd it, some of it may rip, some of the crackle paste may flake off of it. And it was, really thick paper. So I couldn't just Momigami it quickly. I had to really painstakingly, slowly Momigami it so that it wouldn't rip and break apart. And I almost feel like that kind of mimics the healing, that it has to go really slow. Like God had to do the healing really slow in me, because I think that if he went really fast with my healing, it would overwhelm me. And perhaps that's the same way with many of you trauma survivors, is that you notice maybe your healing is slow. But, if you think about what would happen if everything just came so fast, you'd be so overwhelmed. So with the Momigami process, which I'm going to speed through, but I had to fold this up really slowly and create the lines in it, the creases in it from different directions, and just kind of soften it up that way before I could even begin to roll it at all. And then I began rolling it from different directions like this, and just kind of folding it a little bit. And then finally, after a 2-hour process, I could scrunch it up like this. And I'll tell you, the hardest one was this one right here, this collage, because it was so super thick. And now look how soft it is. So it's almost like us, after we've been hurt, we develop this hard shell to protect ourselves, and sometimes we become rigid. And so slowly but surely God begins to work on us and begins to soften us up little by little. And then we finally get to a point where we're very moldable and pliable. It kind of reminds me of the potter's wheel, how we're like a lump of clay, and God just forms us on the wheel. And if we don't turn out right, he smashes us and reforms us. But he doesn't destroy us. He never wants to destroy us, but he does want to make us pliable, and he's most interested in our character, and he wants to be with us, eternally for life. And so he works to try to ensure that can happen, because what does it profit a soul to gain the whole? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul? I mean, your soul, it lives eternally. So that's the most important thing. So even though this took me maybe 5 hours altogether to make these 6 papers, I've already used one of these papers, which I will show you in my trauma journal. Anyway, this paper right here, what's left of it. This was actually the ugliest one and the one I spent the least amount of time on. It was just my scrap paper that I rolled off my excess paint on. But I take those papers and I try to make them beautiful as well, because I think that's also a good metaphor for how, you know, God doesn't let anything go to waste in your life. Any pain, any trauma, any hardship, if you submit to him, he can turn it all into something beautiful. And no matter how you feel, or no matter how rejected you've been, even if it's just, this was a roll-off paper, it still can turn out to be something really beautiful and useful. So anyway, that roll-off paper turned it into this. This is my page, and this is a little pocket. So I got the background here, and then I got a little pocket which I sewed into, and then I added a little ribbon and another piece of scrap paper and another little ribbon, and then I wrote out some feelings in here as well. So there's that. I just want to say that as I did this, it was really powerful for me. It brought up, you could say originally, like when I did it, I just wanted to make some pretty papers. I wasn't necessarily trying to like dig deep and work through trauma. I just wanted to make something pretty. But as I did it, the process did bring up some trauma and some feelings of loss, because it was almost like, okay, the papers were really, really pretty. So you could see they're really, really pretty papers. And so I thought to myself, if I Momigami them, then I could destroy them and they might not be so pretty anymore. They might be completely destroyed. Should I do it? So I took some scans of it just in case they get ruined. So at least I'll have something to show for the process. But I really, really, really then got the idea I want to Momigami it, because it is beginning to it seems like with the Crackle paste and all that, it does sort of resemble my trauma. But, you know, I don't think that it's really been through enough, so let me Momigami it and hopefully not destroy it, even though it did like create little holes and stuff, which I kind of wanted some holes to be there and some wear and tear to be there, but I didn't want it to be completely worn. I wanted it only to be partly worn because I wanted it to still be beautiful. I wanted it to symbolize how God turns, you know, our suffering into something beautiful. So as I did that, though, it forced me to kind of let go of what used to be, like maybe my youth and the dreams that I used to have of, for instance, being happily married when I was youthful. I just turned 55. I know I look young, but I'm 55. And my dreams of that, you know, pretty much ended, or having like an intact family through marriage. Never happened, you know, I'm postmenopausal. And so those dreams, you know, are completely gone. So you have to kind of like let go of what was. What you wanted in life that didn't happen, and you have to embrace the new things in life. So even though now I'm older and maybe I'm a little worn and torn, like I'm still beautiful. There's still beauty, and there's wisdom in your aging process. You learn things, and I think that I'm actually more psychologically healthy now than I ever have been. It's like, and not only that, but I'm more on track with fulfilling the destiny that God has for me. Like I've stepped into that a little bit. And I'm much braver and I'm more confident than I used to be. So the healing has taken place. You know, I'm still not 100% healed, but I'm really feeling wholesome and vibrant and healthy and strong. And so there's a new beauty that's formed in me. And so this could be, you know, the best time of my life. And there's a lot of dreams that are still to be had yet. New dreams, you know, when old dreams are gone, but there's new dreams that you can have. So it's about like letting go of the old but embracing the new, and just learning to love your life the way it is. Disabilities and all, if you have a disability, it doesn't have to stop you from being vibrant and enjoying your life. So that's what I loved about this process, because that is what it shows to me. Like there's just a new beginning, a new beauty to be had. And so enjoy this process. I really love this, and it inspired the next video too, which is going to be a similar process. Alright, I wanted to show you the final results of these papers that I made. I'm outdoors so you can see the colors really well. See, I love how it just kind of cracked off in some places. Because we'll go ahead and look at this piece next. This one isn't as pretty as the other one, but it could be really pretty in my trauma journal, like if I put some stitches on it, or, you know, make a pocket out of it, or I could use maybe part of it for something else in my journal, make a tag out of it. This is what's left of one paper. I already made a pocket out of it in my journal, so I'll show you that. Again, this is the back. You see all the colors, just the variations of them. That is what I like. I did all this to achieve that effect, and it's just so subtle and so rich, and the cracks, you know, just go so deep. But yet, even though it's worn and torn, it's beautiful. Like, even it's beautiful. I mean, the fact that it's worn and torn adds to the beauty, I think. And I like that as a metaphor for myself. Despite whatever I've been through, despite trauma, despite aging, despite the things that might limit me in life, you know, there's so much beauty. Like, it all forms to make something so beautiful. That is what I wanted to capture and express in this process, and I'm very pleased. I'm happy with it. I think that I succeeded in doing that. The last one. This one probably was my least favorite. And if I wanted to, I could go back and change the colors of it. But again, I think that even though it's, I don't know, it's just so-so for a piece of paper in my journal, you know, it could be really cool. Like, half of it would maybe be a page. I want to try to keep most of it intact. I think most of these things, I'm not sure. I mean, because I have a lot of them, so how many pockets can I put in my journal? I don't know what I'm going to do with it all. So some of it may end up being collage fodder, but see, even though this is maybe the ugliest one, but I still think it might make a cool page, you know? Alright, and this is the back. I had to put washi tape on the back of some of it when I was Momigamiing it to keep it, you know, where it started to rip. I didn't want it to rip completely, so I did have to tape up. I just used washi tape, worked really well for this. So, and sometimes the edges would start to rip and I would tape up the edges. So these are the final papers which have been Momigami. So I want to show you this, and then I'm going to give you some tips and ideas about how I think you might be able to achieve a similar effect without taking the 5 hours that I did. So stick around, and then I will say goodbye to you. I wanted to say that perhaps you can get a similar effect as this without going through such an elaborate process as what I did. For instance, the first layer of drawing, and especially the collage, is probably not necessary to get this look. I mean, it is sort of how I got all these variations in colors, but I'm sure you could just make a gel print. Okay, a simple gel print, and then put your Crackle paste on it, and then Momigami it slowly, and you could get a similar effect in less time. Or you could take some art that you already have, like say even a printable of your art, and you could add the Crackle paste to it, and then Momigami it. That'd be like quickest way to go about this process. So I just want to say, like, even though this was long and arduous for me, it was more about the process than it was about the final results. But for you, this is a cool little process if you're willing to take the time, and if you're willing to take the risk, and if you're willing to confront your feelings, because it does bring it up. This is a cool little process to do to work through, you know, your past trauma or your past loss or hardships or whatever it is. You know, when you're working through letting go of the old and trying to embrace the new, especially the aging process, I think it really brought up that for me. This is a cool process, but if you're just looking for quick results of something like this, then maybe even try like a printable, add your Crackle paste, or you could even maybe take a printable and then just do some jelly printing on top of it, then add your Crackle paste and then Momigami in it. Yeah, I think that would be a faster route for making cool papers like this. But just so you know. Bye, everybody. Have a great day and be blessed. And don't lose hope in your healing journey. Know that healing can happen. And if you're a PTSD survivor, know that I believe 100% healing can happen. I really do. And PTSD is one of those things, if you're willing to face your fears, if you're willing to work through it, if you're willing to allow yourself to feel and to grieve, you can heal and you can get better, and the depth of your pain will slowly begin to melt and get better. It really does. Sometimes, I'll just tell you this, sometimes it feels like, especially when a trauma memory comes on, it feels like a black hole that's going to suck you down and keep you stuck there forever. But know this, even though it feels that way, that is not the truth. It maybe sucks you down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long that trauma memory lasts, or even for a brief time period. Sometimes maybe you're going through a depressive episode or something, so you might have a time period where you're feeling really crappy and really down low, but know that you can come out of it and things can get better for you in your life. There's a lot of help out there. through therapy and medications, and then you've got supernatural help that trumps all of it. And when he's in charge of your life, you can go to high places, and he can really just be your strength when you're not strong at all. And he can pull you up when you fall down and you can't get up anymore. He pulls you up, and he encourages you when you feel like you have no hope. He will breathe new life into you, and he will strengthen you, and he will help you move forward, and he will make something beautiful out of your life if you're willing to trust him with your life and with every part of your life. You've got to submit it all to him in order for him to work on those issues, because there's dark parts of us that he needs access to in order to heal that. And so it might take some time. You trust him with a little bit, he heals it. You trust him with a little bit more, he heals that. And slowly you submit every part of yourself to him, and he heals you. That's how it works. Be blessed. Bye.